American producer and director Howard Hawks saw her on the cover of Vogue magazine in 1945 and decided she was going to be his next big star. He had already made stars of Carole Lombard, Frances Farmer, Jane Russell, Lauren Bacall, and others. During the years he was grooming her for success, she got married. On the day the cameras were set to roll on her first film, a movie with John Wayne, which probably would have made her a star, she had to drop out for she was with child. She wouldn't have another chance for 5 years, and it is that film she is best known. Today I present a 17-minute, totally incomplete biography of Margaret Sheridan. She was born Margaret Elizabeth Sheridan on October 29, 1926 in Los Angeles, California, to Thomas and Julia Sheridan. She had a brother named Thomas Sheridan Jr. Nothing is really known about her childhood except she was educated in Catholic schools. Her story really begins when she was in high school. While she was still in high school, she began to make college tuition money as a photographer's model. She was still modeling when she entered the University of California, where she was planning a career in education. At that time, her face was everywhere, like on dozens of billboards advertising beer. One of these was outside the campus of USC. This was while she was a co-ed at USC, and don't think that the gay fraternity boys out there didn't make her life miserable with telephone calls. They worked in shifts, she recalled. One would call and say that he was Daryl Zanuck and I should get out to Fox for a screen test. Another would say he was Samuel Goldwyn. Still another was Jack Warner. It got so bad that I tried to get the companies to take down the billboards, but they wouldn't hear of it. Finally, a man called who said he was producer-director Howard Hawks, and he'd had a devil of a time tracking me down, and wouldn't she be interested in a film career? She hung up the phone on him, a practice which had become standard procedure with her by then. At 14 years of age, her fresh, wholesome beauty attracted a photographer who urged her parents to let her model teenage clothes. At 18, she spent the summer in Phoenix modeling for Montgomery Ward's catalog, and at 19, a fashion picture of her appeared in Vogue. Producer Howard Hawks spotted it and sent out his talent scouts. They located her a mile from Hawks' studio. At the time, however, the press misidentified her as Margaret O. Sheridan. Now Howard Hawks comes up with another unknown. She's a beauteous brunette belle named Margaret O. Sheridan, who has never had a dime's worth of experience, but that doesn't matter to Hawks, who telephoned from location that she's being given the lead in Red River. Remember, Howard is the boy who can take these amateurs and make stars of them. And I cite Lauren Bacall as Exhibit A. Perhaps it isn't quite correct to say that O'Sheridan has no experience, for Howard has been grooming her for 18 months. He has had her under personal contract. Grooming for Bacall consisted of her having to yell bloody murder at the top of her lungs until she developed her famous husky voice. I prefer new faces, Hawks said. They're better actors because they're playing a role, not themselves. And they're not worried about whether the lights are burning out their wrinkles. Besides, they don't have to pay them as much and the public is more interested in them. That yelling mentioned earlier was Hawks' special way of changing a female actor's voice. Screaming develops husky singing voice, says Star. Margaret Sheridan, a new sultry movie star, confessed yesterday that she got her husky voice by screaming. Miss Sheridan owns up to the following the recipe for a sexy pair of pipes that was announced a few weeks back by professional radio movie screamer June Foray. June said anybody can have a sexy voice by yelling incorrectly. Miss Sheridan yawns that her discoverer, famed producer-director Howard Hawks, has used that formula ever since he donated Carole Lombard to the silver screen. She said Hawks prescribed screaming for all his protégés like Jean Harlow, Lauren Bacall, Martha Vickers, and Joanne Drew. The husky voice doesn't last though, she added. You have to keep screaming. Hawks thinks I'm at home screaming 100 times a day, but I'm not. I have to scream again before I do another picture. Of course, voice coaches shoot themselves in the head when you mention this. They think it's the worst thing in the world and it ruins a good voice. Miss Sheridan said that Hawks' screaming lessons changed Martha Vickers' voice completely. Hawks took his time grooming her for success. Sometimes, however, there are dangers of taking so long. In this case, the problem was a young man. Margaret fell in love with a Navy flyer, William F. Pattison, and the two got married. After a much publicized build-up for her film debut, Red River, and after almost 2 years of training, Margaret had to drop out, which Hawks only discovered the day the cameras were set to roll. he didn't know that Margaret was going to have a baby, and he had very high hopes she would be another Lauren Bacall. He gave her the same training and had been very excited about her acting potentialities. But Margaret is in love with her husband, and as much as she wants a career and a chance to play this wonderful role in Red River opposite John Wayne, she wants her baby, and more power to her. The only thing is, Howard wishes she had told him before he spent so many weeks training her. Vital statistics. Married name William F. Pattison. Birthplace Los Angeles. Birthday October 29, 1926. Height 5 feet 6 inches. Weight 125 pounds. Hair dark brown. Eyes blue-green. Margaret O. Sheridan, now that her baby girl Aunt Patricia is born, is planning to resume her screen career. Under contract to Howard Hawks, she was to have been in the film Red River, but doctors opposed. While waiting for her first movie job after her daughter was born, Miss Sheridan found life anything but humdrum. She signed on with the Flying Tigers as hostess and flew around the world with her husband at the controls of a chartered ship. "I guess I flew about 40,000 miles with Bill," she said. "Before the world tour, I would deadhead to various points in the country to be with him, and once I rode out east with a load of caskets and cut flowers. It was a weird experience. When my mother took me to the airport and saw the cargo being loaded, she had a tizzy. I don't blame her." Flying around the world with an unscheduled, dangerous landing at Tokyo Airport provided Miss Sheridan with enough excitement to last a long time. "We had a load of school teachers, professors, and scientists aboard," she explained. "We had no landing permits for Tokyo and decided to set down there anyway. A few hundred miles from Japan, I was in the pilot's compartment using the headphones to try for news broadcasts. It was about the time the Reds had almost driven the UN forces out of Korea, and we were concerned about the situation, especially in Tokyo. But all I could get over the air was an announcer describing a bicycle race in Australia. We landed safely, however." Howard Hawks tells me he's definitely going to do The Sun Also Rises for his next movie, and the star will be Montgomery Clift, and Margaret O. Sheridan will be tested for the leading lady. Both are comparative newcomers to the screen, but that has never scared Hawks. He gave Lauren Bacall her first big opportunity, if you remember. Miss Sheridan goes to 20th for the second feminine lead in I Was a Mail Order Bride. She would not be in either of these two films, and it would take years for Sheridan to have her next chance, and that would be a science fiction film. At last, we'll get a look at Margaret Sheridan, the Hollywood beauty Howard Hawks put under personal contract 5 years ago after seeing her photograph in a magazine. She'll have the top role in The Thing, which Hawks and Edward Lasker are making for RKO. Originally, the comely model was supposed to play the lead in Red River, but she had to bow out because of a stork date, and Joanne Drew took her place. The Thing, a weirdie about life on another planet, will be directed by Christian Naby. John W. Campbell's novella, Who Goes There, which the film is based on, has no female characters, so Hawks had a female part written into the script just for Sheridan.
Well, how was your trip?
It's all right. About usual.
Well, that's fine. I think Dr. Carrington wants to see you.
Dr. Carrington's going to have to wait. I want to talk to you.
What
There
about?
was a downright dirty trick you played on me.
Now, Pat, don't lose your temper.
Why did you do it? Just tell me why.
Well, your legs aren't very pretty, and
I
I
didn't
didn't
have to write it on a note and put it on my chest. Other people got up before I did.
I'm sorry,
At
Pat.
least
I really
6
didn't
people
mean...
read that note before I woke up. Now the whole Air Force is laughing at me.
Not so loud. They'll hear
They
you.
probably already heard. The only place it hasn't been is on a billboard.
Of course, this is my first picture, and I'm not familiar with movie making by any means, the actress said, but it's exciting to work and I'm happy I finally got started. Small talk. With location scenes for The Thing being filmed inside Southern California's largest cold storage plant, RKO publicists the other day took a large party of visitors to the set. After playing one of her principal scenes, Margaret Sheridan, the femme star of the picture, came back to the sidelines to find most of the audience had strayed to the far end of the huge refrigerator room to marvel at the colossal pile of frozen tuna estimated to be worth $1 million. "I've been warned about scene stealers ever since I came to Hollywood," said she, "but I never expected to be upstaged by dead fish." Pretty Margaret Sheridan, the picture's leading lady, confided that she was wearing red flannels under her Arctic finery. Years later, Hawks admitted that the married mother was not the same girl as the one he began training years earlier. Kenneth Tobey, the star of the film, said, She wasn't aggressive about pursuing an acting career. She had made quite a bit of money hair modeling and stuff like that. Margaret was a wonderful girl. Margaret Sheridan, beautiful brunette in RKO's The Thing, reigns as Queen of Williamton, North Carolina during its festival. Now, she had been under contract with Hawks for over 6 years, getting a weekly paycheck the whole time, with only one film to show for it. Yet she signed another contract, this time split between Hawks' Winchester Pictures and Howard Hughes' RKO. My contract with Mr. Hawks actually was dropped at one time, she told me, but I was offered another at a larger salary figure by Howard Lasker, who is now Mr. Hawks' partner in Winchester Productions. However, I felt I owed Mr. Hawks a lot for keeping me on the payroll all the time I wasn't working, so I re-signed with him. I'm not actually certain, but I read that Winchester and RKO now share my contract. She would say years later to a friend about her contract to Howard Hughes, it was the kiss of death, because having your contract sold to Hughes meant you never worked in pictures again, unless you were Jane Russell. RKO Beauty to shed pilot. I am deeply sorry about it, declared the dark-haired RKO film beauty, but apparently there's no chance for reconciliation. I have retained attorney Charles Callahan and expect to file a suit for divorce in the near future.
Well,
Take care of the kids, will you, Mary?
and you take care of you. Trace and raid on the 23rd? Raid what?
I don't know.
Ask CM if she can help.
CM, that's for Charlotte Manning.
Call family, R.H. Vickers, Woodville, New York. Girl in bad shape.
That's a very nice brooch, too.
Thank you. I'm especially proud of it. Dad gave it to me. It's my birth sign, Pisces. He cut the stone himself. Richard's not the sort that will listen to explanations.
All the better. I hate scenes.
Darling, don't leave me alone with him. He can be awfully persuasive when he wants to be.
Over the next few years, Margaret would appear in a handful of films and a few TV shows, but one wonders how serious she was about her career. Margaret Sheridan, now rated as Howard Hughes' #1 candidate for top glamour girl rating, is quite naturally excited about her prospects, but not too excited to earn another rating as one of Hollywood's most cautious ladies. In addition to studying acting, singing, dancing, and diction at the studio's behest, she has been attending an evening class in real estate brokerage. Next week, she gets her diploma and will apply for a broker's license. She'll work for a San Fernando Valley office between picture assignments. It was also reported that Margaret was becoming a good singer, and it was suspected that she was preparing for a nightclub act. Margaret Sheridan is bearing down on vocal lessons, wants to hit the lucrative nightclub circuit. As far as I know, that never happened. Also, she was finally able to show off her legs, something that her original contract with Howard Hughes wouldn't allow. He had a strict no cheesecake policy. And of course, since her divorce, there were rumors of her dating this guy or that guy, but that came to an end in late 1952. Margaret Sheridan, wedding set today. Actress Margaret Sheridan disclosed today that she and Paul Wildman, insurance man, will fly to Tucson, Arizona this afternoon to be married. The two have been acquainted 11 years. Miss Sheridan, who played in 1 Minute to Zero and The Thing, received a divorce a month ago from William Pattison. In 1954, she starred in 2 films. Pride of the Bluegrass with Lloyd Bridges and Vera Miles, and then The Diamond Wizard with Dennis O'Keefe. And that seemed to end her acting career. Paul Wildman would go from insurance man to attorney, and Margaret, when not acting, was now Margaret Wildman. And by 1956, she was known as a former actress, barely over 10 years since being discovered by Hawks. Paul and Margaret would have 2 children together, 2 more daughters. And then, 10 years after her last acting appearance in 1964, she had a mini comeback. TV highlights. Margaret Sheridan, the former Howard Hughes contractee who starred in The Thing, just signed to shoot a Jeep commercial. "You can't imagine my surprise and delight upon seeing my name in your column," writes Margaret Sheridan. "Having been inactive in the business, other than commercials, for 10 years, the day my name appeared in your column, I received a call to do a part in Wagon Train. Needless to say, I'm really excited about doing something where I will not be selling a product. I am most flattered and grateful that you recognized me in that commercial and were kind enough to mention it." That same year, she appeared in the Howard Hawks film Man's Favorite Sport in an uncredited part, and on TV in Bob Hope Presents Chrysler Theater.
Morning, Maggie.
Morning, Roger. Go right on in.
Oh, thank you.
Those were her last two appearances. Who knows why she stopped acting? Maybe she had been pushed aside by Hollywood, or maybe, being a happily married mother of 3, she didn't feel the need to knock on doors or do auditions to look for work. Who knows? But she did spend a lot of her time, besides raising a family, doing charity work. Margaret and Paul would remain married until Margaret's death. She died way too young at the age of 55 on May 1st, 1982, due to cancer. Paul died almost 1 year later on May 11th, 1983. During her mini comeback in 1964, she still seemed a very capable and beautiful actress at age 38. I can't help but think that if she applied herself to her career, she might have been a very successful actor. As it is, she only has 11 acting credits to her resume. But you know, I remember the first time I watched The Thing. As good as that film was, it was Margaret Sheridan's smiling face and laughter that made the biggest impression on me.
Oh, get a good night's sleep.
I'll see you in the morning.